Hello, I'm Noir Nerd, and this is going to be a video going over just me making some ambient music for the game I'm working on at the minute in Unity. So I'm using Synthbox for this, which is a variation of Beatbox. It's just a free web-based music software, which I find quite fun to play with because it's fairly easy to use, and you can get some interesting results. It's like sort of really designed for like doing chiptune, but again, like this whole video is just going to be an insight into how I'd approach doing music prod in some level. I've used various tools in the past, FL Studio, Audio Mulch for a while. It's something I'm quite interested in. But yeah, obviously at this point I'm just wanting to get like an initial sound from the first channel and just tweaking parameters here and there, added some reverb. Eventually I did make this into like an ambient-y sounding piece, but at this point I'm just looking for a way in, like some interesting collection of sounds. The minute it sounds almost like quite carnivalesque, I suppose, and yeah, I'm just playing around with some of the envelopes that you can, just to see if there's a, you know, you listen with your ears a lot when you're doing music production, especially just for a hook. So I wanted it obviously to sound less cheesy, so that's what I'm doing here, really, just experimenting really with different tweaking different parameters just to see if I can get something that sounds a bit more the atmosphere I was trying to go for. Essentially what I was trying to create here was something that's very much background music. I don't want it to be too intrusive to the actual gameplay experience. But obviously at the minute now it sounds a bit, you know, I've got the various note slides as well, which is, you know, making the sound a bit more stretched out with a more sudden sliding down. But yeah, basically just trying to work on the composition here, get it so that there is some sort of logic in the sequencing, moving down to another channel, get something that's a bit more like a bass element, I think was what I was trying to go for here. Adjusting the various volumes, trying to get again, just trying to search for a sound that sounds consistent. And obviously the first channel's way too loud still actually in the mix, but like I said, one of the good things about using Beatbox or Synthbox is you can just, it's very much like easy to use, to be honest. Like you can get something sketched out. I mean, the whole length of this video is like 25 minutes. It doesn't take that long to get something together which is at least a draft, you know, sort of composition. So yeah, using the frequency modulation, put that a bit higher up, probably a bit higher up in the mix, changing the notes because it wasn't really working. Just simplified it a bit so it's on every. Lowered it down, obviously, it's got a bit of a slide again. One thing I was very conscious of, which I didn't get right immediately with this composition as well, was just not having it too busy. I wanted there to be space. This is something I usually get, I can go a bit overboard sometimes with the composition to the because your ear does need space to breathe. And then obviously here just starting to do the rhythm section. You have this type of drum kit, I guess, in Beatbox, and you can change the whatever kit you're using. Most of the time you're sort of stuck on whatever sounds you got there. So you got like snares, hi-hats, closed hats, etc. mapped onto different areas. So yeah, at the minute I'm just basically trying to find a way that I can. You got the kicks there, but then you've got some hats as well that'll just interspersed in between the kicks. But again, it's always a case of you're trying to balance out it not being too busy with also making something that's audibly interesting, or really interesting, I suppose. So this is actually, this beat is pretty much what I settled on. I did edit it a bit as I went along, and that's basically what I'm doing now, just tweaking it a bit. And I did end up doing quite a lot of tweaking because I wasn't, just to get the beats in the correct place in the mix as well. And I ended up doing like, I think 2 variations patterns for each one. Like, I wanted to keep it fairly simple. I didn't want to spend ages on this. I just want to make a simple sequence of music for a background, like I said, for a background of a game. So I wanted to make it so that it was interesting enough for it to create an atmosphere, but not so in your face that it takes away from the gameplay. Like, so it's not going to be distracting you too much, I guess, was the idea. And this just sort of started to become something a bit interesting, like introduce a little bit of like a sort of, yeah, mess around with the EQs. I wanted to get that right, because I wanted the beats to have a certain like sound of crunchiness, but not be too distorted as well. It's like a bit of a balance. Taking the reverb down. I didn't really want the echoey reverb on the drums. I wanted to keep that so it's a bit more crisper than the rest of it. And then yeah, looking here at adding some more, just the pads, which basically provide some of them more of the atmosphere and the music, I think, in the track. And it's just using a preset sweep pad that comes with Synthbox, and then, you know, editing some of those values as well. And then yeah, making a backup, which is always a good idea with music. So the composition here is starting to become something a bit more. You got that weird sound. Obviously, I create the variation later on because you can't just have this loop throughout the entire song. It just wouldn't make much sense, really, right? Just be a bit boring, I think, if you just had this through the entire sequence. And you do need like this looped all the time. You just wouldn't have any space because the beats would just be constantly going on as they are, without any space for your brain just to breathe. Like I was saying before, I think that's a very important thing actually in music making, is that you have a little bit of space for your ear and your brain to process the music. And then yeah, just slowing the tempo way down, because like I said, I think one of my main aims would be to create some sort of like Autechre-esque ambient techno music. The tempo is still probably a bit too fast at the minute. It's too frantic. That will change quite a lot actually when I take it into Audacity. The finished result does sound really, really different because I slow the tempo right down, and then eventually even edit the audio within Audacity to slow it down even further. So basically, it's almost at the halfway point there. Just having a see what these other drum kits might sound like with the same sequences, but they didn't sound quite right, really, and I just sort of went back to the original idea. Playing out of the filters again, because something still sounded off in the drums. I wasn't quite able to pinpoint it down. You have to, like, whenever you're doing anything like this, you have to really train your ear, I think, to work out the different levels and the different effects, like, to achieve the results you want, which is definitely fun, because after you've done the actual sequencing, the notes, that's where you can start doing the more sound design-y type elements, I guess. Though, obviously, a free program like Synthbox or Beatbox doesn't allow for as much flexibility as a full DAW, digital audio workstation. You can still get some little interesting sound design-y type moments in there, either through the slide or use of effects or delay and stuff like that. So yeah, obviously I felt like that the number one sequence with the slide is a bit much. You can't have that all the time for every sequence because it's just a bit strange. So yeah, I started working on some alternative leads, synth lead patterns. So you can hear immediately just when you're listening to that back. Again, you got a bit more space for the ear to breathe when you switch to the second pattern. Because the first one's, because it's got that swoop whoosh up thing, if you had that playing through all the time, it would be a bit difficult for you, be a bit much going on. And then I decided that, yeah, I'm going to have a separate, alternate drum loop as well. So, at first I just tried out a bunch of random things. Then I just decided to do a variation on the first pattern eventually. But yeah, at this point I just wanted to see what does it sound like if I just strip the drums way down. So just add some, 4 kicks or snare. And then I want to experiment with like stretching and faster patterns. Just the patterns. More notes playing in each part. Just to see what effects I could get from that. So yeah, just a bit random really, this bit of experimentation for the second sequence of the drums. So some of that was quite interesting, like with the stretching, sample stretching. But yeah, it's also, we don't want to go over the top of it too much. So this is what's getting closer to the idea I had of like a Inkunabula era sort of all-tacker type track, but the tempo is way too fast for that still. And obviously the production quality is not as good. But it was getting a little closer to what I had planned. But obviously the rhythms from the second sequence is still a bit doesn't really tie together. It just sounds chaotic, right? So I think I just decided to scrap the second sequence I was working on before and just copy the first section and then just work from that, really, rather than so I thought, yeah, instead of just, I'll create something that's a bit more of a variation, and when I actually get to doing the final longer composition, I actually just I obviously have moments where I don't play the drums, don't play certain sections, so you get you get more space. So yeah, I just decided in the second one we'll have a little same basic patterns in place, just with more stretching and maybe some places where there's faster sample triggering, just so there's a little bit of subtle variation there, I suppose. Now it still sounds a bit all over the place. It's too busy still, but it does all tie together a bit more later. I think this just, at this point, more or less, it's just basically the rhythm section is just too frantic. And the overall sequencing too. It sounds almost like it's ingesting itself. So slowed the tempo down again. I think overall this actually does work a bit better, and this is where I've started to feel like, yeah, maybe this does have something. You also got quite a lot of so yeah, I started just to try and sequence out longer parts now. So again, where I was just trying to figure out, some bits will have, you know, no sequence playing. You don't want just one sequence playing through the entire 3 or 4 minutes or whatever. So start to just try that out. And you can tell that it does have more of a feeling of, I mean, it's a very slow development, but one thing I think actually that's not great with the composition, though, like I said, it's sort of by design, it's the fact that it doesn't really have much tension or release, or it does have some, but it's very, because it's, well, like I said, I was aiming for sort of background music, but ambient music can still excite you with the composition, and I'm not 100% sure if this track, which I'll play all of it at the end of this video, I'm not sure if it fully achieves that, like, but then I'm not sure if that's a problem really, because like I said, I want it just to be like a background music for a game, so I'm still in two minds about that. I mean, I've put the actual track into the game now and seen how it plays, and it somewhat suits it, but as you'll see when I put it into Audacity, I changed the pitching and the speed a lot, just to we're getting near to the first sort of export, I think, of the file as well. I mean, as it's a bit of an experiment, it's noodling, really, I guess I'd call it. Noodling around. I know, I'm probably going to create, like, I think 2 or 3 others, because for this game I'm planning, I do have 3 environments planned, maybe 4 or 5 levels even. So they each need individual tracks. It's just taking out some of the drums at first. I actually do the fading in for the actual intro in Audacity, of course. And yeah, the sequencing was fairly random actually, so I think I was happy enough with it here to the point where I'll just have a play around with in Audacity. I initially made the loop count to 2, but then I thought, what's the point of that? Because within Unity anyway, you can just get the track to loop, so it'd be a bit pointless to loop it. To be honest, it's like just makes it a bigger file size. So I exported it out again after that, because I realised like what's the point of doing that? Anyway, this is where I'm going to take it into Audacity, and I'm not going to do a great deal of editing, processing the sound in Audacity. Audacity, if you're not familiar with it, is just a free software as well. You download it. It's free, and you can do a lot of different audio editing, and it's a good tool. A fair amount to get your head around, and then yeah, just listening to the track for the first time. Taking it into Audacity now. And then this is where I thought I'd do like adding reverb or like changing the speed, just play around with the sound. Like a lot of the time when I make ambient, dark ambient, droney type music, I tend to use several different softwares in combination. Usually just free stuff. And yeah, so obviously add the fade, select the relevant piece of audio, and then fade it in so you don't have just a sudden immediate start. And yeah, you can actually do quite a lot of decent audio editing on Audacity. It's a great piece of software. And then yeah, I wanted to play around with the speed and the pitch, and I quite like this sound the first time I heard it. Had a bit more of a atmospheric tone than the original one, so yeah, I just switched it to that. And basically, that's pretty much how I got that together. And you'll hear like how just changing the pitch and the speed actually has quite a profound effect on the track overall from this one. Makes it much more of a darkly atmospheric piece of music, I suppose. Quite slow, ponderous, and repetitive, but again, like I said, it was almost like I was just trying to create a soundscape more than anything else with this one. You go almost a bit like Terminator-esque. There's drum beats which were skittering and too fast before, now a bit like a Terminator-style thing. And that can be the power of just using a tool like Audacity intelligently sometimes. You know, because before it wasn't really atmospheric enough. It sounded... in places it just sounded a bit too preset-y, but this has a bit more character, I think. And yeah, it's just a piece of music you can enjoy in the background of a sci-fi orientated game. That's about it really. I'm not going to yabber on for too long because I've been yabbering for quite a while, but hope that you found that interesting, just as an insight into like prototyping a piece of music, doing a bit of music production for game design. I've been Noir Nerd. Like and subscribe. And then I'm just going to have a play out with the full track. No, that's it. Alright, bye.